So, thank you. A lot been said already about the subject I'm going to talk about. My name is Aboubakar Fofana. I'm originate from West Africa, from Mali, and I'm French as well. So I think that I would like to share something with you is more about a love story with this medium or with this substance whose indigo. And for me, I would say is much more than a color. So I've been first introduced to indigo, I was 7 years old. And in my grandmother's village, where I used to be sent during vacation, and at those places, we used to be, as child, shepherd. It means taking animals and taking them to feed them all the day long in the nature and coming back before sunset. My grandmother was, how can I say that? She was a healer. She was only using plants to heal people, and she was really great at that because people was coming from many different places to be healed by her. And my first introduction with indigo was as a medicinal plant, not at all as color. And then, at that time, indigo was already a lost tradition in that village of West Africa, Guinea especially, because we have borders now, but it was the same country, Mali and Guinea. And I think everything started the day I've been shown how from green leaves we can make blue color. So I think that was the beginning or the seeding in my mind. And it's been also the beginning of my love story with this substance. So I would have preferred my work to talk for me because it's always very emotional when you have to put words on your work. And now in Mali, for those last 4 years, we started with my small team also farming indigo. We are farming 2 species. And this one is Indigofera erecta, and the other one is commonly called now Philoneptera cyanescent or Loncocarpus cyanescent. That was his name before it been called Philoneptera cyanescent. Dominique can confirm that. Yes, Philoneptera cyanescent. So that picture is really the picture I had in mind when I was 7 years old, and crushing the indigo leaves and seeing this reaction, and I was saying how from green leaves we can make blue color. And it's an amazing indigo content for this plant source as well. And of course, when I say indigo, for me is not especially about the color, but it's about the substance. Because my grandmother used to also commission those tunics with dyers, as she used to say, because indigo was used as an antiseptic and anti-inflammatory, and she was commissioning those tunic or pants to heal some of her patients. And that's why, for me, it's very important to talk about that aspect of a substance more than even the color. And because in our belief, we said that it is the spirit of the plant who is giving the blue. So, and it's not only one blue, it's many different shades of blue. And in our tradition, to become an accomplished indigo dyer, you have to be able to achieve 12 different shades. And each of those shades have a name, and because we said also each of those shades are specific emotions. So from the blue of nothingness as I can call it, to the very midnight dark blue, and all those different shades in between. We also knew from a very talented or skillful indigo dyer in the past that they could ask their client to come any time of the day and to just to show them a shade in the sky they could reproduce on the textile for them. And I think that poetry also was one of the things who really reinforced my love for this medium. So the way we process with this dye or this plant in West Africa is pounding the leaves and reducing the mass of leaves to create concentration of dye stuff. And then from this raw material, from those bowls, we are going to set up what we call the fermentation leaves vat. The fermentation leaves vat is because we do believe that indigo is a living color, and we are in the process of creating living organisms, bacteria, who is going to be used as a reduction agent inside this dye vat. So here you can see that there is a lot of life, because in this with this living or this vat, creating living organism or dealing with living organism have many different aspects you have to be aware of, and you have to use your sense or your different sense to know how healthy are the bacteria. It means you can use by tasting the vat, by smelling the vat. Observation is also very important to see how consistent is the flower, indigo flower, or the foam, and how thick or how loose, and all this indicates how healthy is your vat. And I've been told once by an old lady in Dogon country saying to me, my son, you know, doing indigo is a respect for life, because you have to keep as long as you can those living organisms alive. And I've been now working, experiencing that for over 35 years. And I have this story to say about one of my assistants, Rokia, when she started working with me. And I was saying to her, so Rokia, you know, we need there is small animals in this liquid. You cannot see them with your eyes, but we need to feed them. And she was looking at me and saying, Abu, are you sure everything is okay? Because it really seems like crazy to say that we are dealing with living beings and that we have to feed them and we have to let them rest and we have to care about them. This is the only condition we can get from them what we are expecting, their beauty. So this is a very important notion for me, and working for all those years with the fermentation fermentation vat did taught me like the notion of respect and humility, because it's not just trying to succeed a recipe, but I think the skill of an indigo dyer with that is to be able to know every single day what the needs of those living beings, and to give them those needs, and then you can get from them their beauty. And this is quite a 14 months old vat. I have to say, in my belief, every living thing will die, because the way we work with this medium, some indigo dyer would say to you that they kept their vat for 20 years or 5 years. And the way we process, we do think that the indigo vat have a life cycle. And this life cycle is more or less what we said traditionally is 9 months, because we do also this parallel with human gestation. And this 14 months old vat, because from my experience it happens sometimes to go over this 9 months, is you can see the characteristic of the foam is very pale and very loose, but it's still very active. And for me, I called them my old ladies because they are very wise, they have experience, and I've been feeding them for many months. And to get my more subtle light shades, I will use those vats. And most of the time, I have one experience of, especially that one, creating what I'm calling the blue of nothingness. And it was 8 dips inside this vat of 14 months to be able to get this blue of nothingness. And after these 8 dips, it was like the last breath of that vat. And then, of course, we give back to the earth what's been given to us. We use those finished vat as a fertilizer to nourish acid soil. So I'm not going to go into the process or the chemical aspect because many been told already about all that aspect. What I wanted to show here is my own experience as a visual artist or as a fiber artist or designer, the different application of this medium on fiber in general or on textile. So here is the setting of my studio in Bamako, in West Africa, in Mali. And of course, it's very important always for me, when I think indigo, I'm always thinking at the largest scale of blue I can create from my vats. And yes, we do work for what I can say fashion accessories and homewares, and also I have a very personal work using this medium. Yarn dye is one of the work we are doing the most in that because we collaborate with weavers and we have to be able to give them different quality, different shade of blue, and also different quantity depending of their demand. If they need 7 kilo of the same shade or 3 kilo of that one, and of course the process of scouring the yarns and dyeing to get all those different shades of blue. And Mali was last year and been also for many years the first producer of cotton in the African continent, but there is something really absurd, like maybe only 3 or 5% of this cotton is transformed in Mali. Everything is exported to be transformed, and we don't keep any value added in the country. So for me, it's very important to work with this cotton, even it's just a drop, but transforming, and also because I'm working also in kind of a cottage industry with a different group of women and weavers, traditional weaver, for the spinning and the weaving of the narrow bands, who's very characteristic from West African horizontal looms. Yeah. So here are those 12 different shades, and you are very welcome later to have a look to those 12 different shades on organic hand-spun cotton from Mali. And we do work a lot for fashion accessories, like shawls, using many different fibers from cellulosic origin or from protein origin. Here, this is linen, Belgian linen. And I don't know if we can see clearly, this is the blue of nothingness, who's one of my favorite, but I don't have any favorite because people used to ask me often, which one is your favorite? Do you have any favorite blue? And I always reply, no, because it's like a parent for their kids. They're all different and we love them all. So. It's not moving anymore. Accessories, hats from hand-spun crocheted, and of course with the dyed yarns, those are some of the hand-spun woven cottons. I don't know how you call that, ombre dye, dégradé, we would say in French. Who's like just technical, just long time consuming and technical, but it's not especially difficult to realize. But detail, stitch resist, tie resist. This is all those different technique we are using, or paste, flour paste, cassava flour paste resist as well sometimes. This is a stitch resist, who's very specific stitching from West Africa, from Dogon country. It's very specific to this area. And of course, collaboration with a fashion designer or interior designer as well. This was a collection I worked on for this brand called Eden, who's owned by the singer Bono and his wife and the French luxury group LVMH. And I did a collection for a fashion show in New York. With yardage dye and also piece dye with garments dye as well. Homewares, trying to use maximum of those narrow bands from horizontal looms, with some stitch resist. That was a project in Kyoto in a kimono shop in a collaboration with a Japanese client who's been from yarn dyed. Sorry? I can already? Okay, right. So I'm gonna share with you, I have, it's really, of course, it's very difficult in 30 minutes to be able to talk about 35 years of experience dealing with indigo, and those are more some of the personal work. And I wanted to go very quickly with some experience I did lately for a project for Documenta, who's an event in contemporary art. We did grow with greenhouses 3 different species of plants to make an installation. The first one was titled Uprising. It was more talking about indigo, the relation of indigo and and slavery, and especially in West Africa, because it did justify slavery in the United States using those Africans to cultivate indigo, because indigo have all those different depths, not only as color, but the social, cultural, and the political depths. And Uprising was talking about that project. And I have this very controversial work titled Africa Blessing, where I had to work with living beings as well, but animals, to dye 54 sheep to express, to do the parallel with migration, human movements, because in our tradition, indigo is a color of protection, and I'm happy to talk about later. And it was kind of a crazy project, and but absolutely did work. And I had big issues for this project also, because I've been physically attacked by animal rights people and the vegans. And yeah, so for me it was an art form, an artwork, and about my process, because I would always say if art cannot cross boundaries, what else will cross boundaries? So those are the sheep in Athens who are different from the African brides. So, and yeah, and that's the result of this attack by the vegan and the, can I say, the animal rights people. Sorry. And I would need some help to make the, and I would like to share quickly his 5 minutes video talking about this project of Documenta. I had 3 different, can make the full screen. Yes. I had those three different projects. As I showed you, one was with the sheep in Athens and the uprising in Castle, and I had to dye also 10,000 meters of ribbon to be used as a bookmark for the catalog of Documenta. Et le souvenir d'enfance que j'ai, c'est ça. C'est d'être avec les animaux, les chèvres, les moutons, et puis nous, cueillir les feuilles, les fruits sauvages pour se nourrir, et déterrer des racines pour se nourrir. Et voilà, et puis tout le monde y trouve son compte, aussi bien les animaux qu'on amène pour nourrir que nous-mêmes, quoi. Donc, et puis c'est la contemplation de la nature, c'est le chant des oiseaux. Ça, c'est nourrissant, ça, c'est inspirant. Je trouve que c'est la source d'inspiration la plus réelle pour moi, la plus juste en fait, la nature. C'est que j'en connais une on t'a vous levez les jambes là barbo mana mai datula mai amana re Barafu, barafolo, baranonokene, barakene, baradje, barafin, barakale, baradjalan, lomassa, lomassa dje, lomassa fin, lomassa douné. Thank you for your attention.